Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take different sources, could be articles, research notes, and we pull out the key bits of knowledge, the important insights to get you up to speed fast. Today, we're doing something a bit unusual. We're diving into a source that looks incredibly simple, almost ridiculously so, but it holds, well, potentially a universe of meaning. Our entire source for today is just the title, Power of Love. That's it.
Yeah, and what's so fascinating right away is how just a title, those three words, can be so evocative, can it? It pulls you straight into this huge concept. It's, universally resonant, but also deeply personal, even when it is the entire text. It makes you stop and think.
Okay, right. So let's really try to unpack this, or I guess unpack this here, weighted this phrase being our only source material. When Power of Love just stands there on its own as the definitive statement, what does that signify? And how does it kind of push us to think about all its implications, maybe beyond just, a fleeting feeling?
Well, when your whole source is just power of love, it suddenly becomes this huge open canvas, doesn't it? It's clearly not about just one specific type of love, like, say, romantic love, or one narrow context. It forces you to think about the inherent strength, the influence of love in its really broad forms. It sort of compels you, the listener, to bring your own understanding to it, right? To fill in those blanks yourself and really consider the impact love actually has. And that brings up a really important question, I think. Is this power about creation, healing, transformation? Or could it even be, in some extreme cases, something more destructive? The source itself doesn't tell us, which is kind of its genius.
That's a powerful point, the whole filling in the blanks idea. Does that mean his power is, like, almost entirely subjective then? Or is there some kind of objective truth we can find in this power of love? When we say power, are we talking influence, motivation, something else entirely?
It's a good distinction. I'd say it's less about coercive power, forcing an outcome, and much more about what you might call catalytic power or agency. It's the ability to spark really deep change, but without necessarily forcing it. It's more like an internal fuel, maybe, not so much an external control. Think about Viktor Frankl's writings from the concentration camps. He observed how love for someone, or even love for a purpose, could be the very last thing keeping someone going, giving them strength and meaning. Or, on a different note, think how enduring grief over losing someone loved can sometimes transform into this incredible driving force for, say, compassion or advocacy work. That's love acting as this internal transformative engine.
Wow. It really is fascinating how just three words can contain all of that. When you think about all the different human experiences, what's maybe a really strong personal example of this catalytic power that springs to your mind? Maybe something small, even every day.
Oh, absolutely. Everyday examples are maybe the most powerful. Consider the sheer patience, the perseverance a parent shows for a child who's really struggling, driven purely by love, right? Or just a simple act of forgiveness between friends. That moment can stitch a broken relationship back together, allow it to grow again. These aren't, huge world-changing events, but they are incredibly potent examples of love actively shaping outcomes, mending things. It shows that subtle but really profound influence on individual lives.
Right. Okay, so that's the personal resonance, the individual level. But if we sort of step back, take a wider view, how does power of love play out on a bigger stage? Societally, globally even. I'm thinking about things like the civil rights movement. Often that seemed fueled by a deep love for justice, for community. It wasn't just anger, was it?
Exactly. Yeah. Precisely. If we zoom out, that simplicity we talked about, it allows for this profound universal relevance. Whether you look at it personally, societally, maybe even philosophically, power of love just evokes this fundamental human connection, this potential. Yeah. It really speaks to the idea that love, maybe in its purest forms, whether you call it agape, that's a selfless concern for others, or philia, like deep friendship and camaraderie, it acts as a catalyst for significant collective change. It can be the glue holding communities together, the drive behind innovation sometimes, or even just the comfort we find in despair. Its strength really comes from its ability to unify, doesn't it? To forge bonds, sometimes unbreakable ones, and to transcend divisions.
That's a really crucial distinction, I think, because sometimes, let's be honest, power of love can sound a bit, well, like a vague platitude, can't it? How do we make sure we're talking about this active, unifying force you described, and not just, sentimentalism? What gives it actual power rather than just being a nice idea?
Yeah, that's key. What makes it potent, I believe, is its direct link to action. to intentionality. It's not just a passive feeling you have, it's a force that actually compels you to do something. Its power is in its ability to inspire real altruism, empathy, collective resilience, especially when things get tough. You see it when communities rally after a disaster, right? Sharing everything they have, offering comfort. That is the power of love made visible. It's coordinated, empathetic action. It bridges divides, reinforces our shared humanity. It's really the opposite of just standing by. It's engagement.
It really is quite incredible how much depth we can pull from just those 3 words. This deep dive has definitely been unique. The source itself, just a phrase, but so impactful, sparking so much thought.
And considering the bigger picture, what this really shows, I think, is how someone's the most potent knowledge, the deepest truth, can lie in the core of a very simple statement, like power of love. It allows for such rich personal interpretation, but also this universal connection that cuts across all kinds of specific situations.
So what does all this mean for you listening in? Well, maybe it's an invitation to really notice the depth, the implications, hidden in seemingly simple statements we hear or use every day, and to think about how much can actually be unpacked from just a few words. Maybe consider this. How often are the most impactful sources in your own life actually just a single resonant idea, a bit like the power of love? And how could you maybe deep dive into that in your own world?